So what about Indonesia's relationship with New Zealand? Distance still poses a challenge for closer ties. However, Indonesia is one of New Zealand's top 10 export destinations, and New Zealand is an important market for Indonesia's mineral, fuel and textile. Nevertheless, more could be done to increase bilateral relations. Okay, and the other thing is, of course, your visit to Indonesia, which is basically your first visit to Indonesia. Tell us a little bit more about it and how important is Indonesia to New Zealand?
Well, the visit's overdue. We were really keen to come in the first term of Parliament, and the Christchurch earthquakes and I think your presidential elections and things just interrupted that program. But we've been keen to get there for a very long time. I have a good relationship with your president. President Yudhoyono is he's a fine man. I see him a lot in the various functions that we go to around the world. And New Zealand and Indonesia enjoy a really strong relationship, and we'd like to build on that relationship. A lot of New Zealanders go to Indonesia. They go for business reasons, obviously, and they go for holidays. I mean, Bali's it's extremely popular. Probably slightly more Australians than New Zealanders.
And there will be a direct flight to Bali very soon, I
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So there's a lot of two-way travel between the two. I mean, your food is outstanding, so I'm looking forward to some great.
And there should be more there should be more Indonesian restaurants in New Zealand.
Yeah,
you mentioned about the kind of things to build on. Could you give an example? What are the kind of things that could be built on between Indonesia and New Zealand with concrete results?
Well, I think firstly we're both signatories to the ASEAN FTA that we signed back in, I think, 2010, and so that opens up the opportunities for both countries to expand our activities together. We'd love to see more tourists coming down here. You mentioned film, exactly. I mean, the Indians and the Chinese are already filming a lot of movies in New Zealand. I mean, Indonesian filmmakers could come and spend more time here. People that maybe want to spend more time living here, students, for instance. Again, China's a very large market, as is Korea and Japan, for students to come and study either at high school or at university here. So we do see Indonesian students coming down to New Zealand. And then there are areas of specialisation where we have some products which are obviously very useful for your market. I mean, food is a big part of that.
Indonesia is such a big population.
Huge population, yeah. So, in a large Muslim country, and we're producing, halal meat and Muslim-based products. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for New Zealand to do well. But equally, we'd like to think it's a two-way street. So a lot of opportunities for Indonesian companies to come and expand their activities here in both New Zealand and Australia.
What sort of companies do you think would benefit most from New Zealand?
Well, you're big in a number of areas. I mean, obviously manufacturing, textiles, there's a number of opportunities. We largely import all of those kinds of things. Our manufacturing base is more limited to really specialist areas. So there's a lot of products that you could send down here. We see Indonesian clothing and things here already.
So there is a market for Indonesian manufacturers in New Zealand?
Oh, very much so, yeah. We would encourage them to come down and have a look. And one of the things we're seeing is joint ventures being established where, as I say, there's a small but growing Indonesian population here, local business people tying up joint ventures where products can be, maybe started in one country and finished in another, or marketing activities. Service-based industries as well on both fronts we can use.
How about, for example, because New Zealand is very, very good with its sophisticated, research development and technology, particularly in the agriculture sector and the farming areas. Is there ways for Indonesian farmers, for example, to benefit from some of that technology through maybe transfer of knowledge or training and so on? Because we also have a big agriculture industry, but it needs a lot of revamping up in terms of its R&Ds and technology and ways of doing it so that it's a lot more productive.
Yeah, very much so. So if you take climate change as a good example, I mean, one of the things that we did was that we established a thing called the Global Research Alliance, and that was an idea to say, look, the world wants to produce food and actually needs more food. Population's getting larger, people are becoming wealthier.
And a better way of producing
food. Absolutely. So the argument is not whether we produce less food, but can we do it in a way which is going to be better in terms of methane and nitrate emissions? And let's try and find a scientific solution. And we invited countries to come in and be part of that. And that's developing technology that we want to spread around the world. If you look at best practices in agriculture, we're not very proprietorial about that. In other words, There are lots of countries that will come to New Zealand. Students will go to our universities and our Crown Institutes and work alongside us. We're quite happy to share that information, primarily because even though we think we have very good technology in what we do well, there's actually a limit to how much we can produce. A lot of our land's already in farmland. You're seeing some conversion to dairy because it's been slightly higher value at the moment. But the reality is the world is going to produce a lot more food than New Zealand can produce. So we're quite happy to share that technology. And we, for instance, as part of our China FTA, we've worked on trying to improve food safety standards for China. So there are lots of opportunities at a government-to-government level for us to just set up programs and for businesses to come and be part of what we're doing here. And hopefully we can learn from the Indonesians in other areas.
At the same time, more Indonesian students are finding New Zealand an attractive place to study and do research, particularly in areas of science and technology. Grace, an Indonesian PhD student at Victoria University of Wellington School of Architecture, is taking sustainable urban study. I talked to her about why she likes living in New Zealand. But does the scholarship, I mean, how many years does it cover? Or what kind of things does the scholarship cover? Is it tuition, living expenses?
Yeah. It's really good. So because they need the research, they need the result of research. So if the government give scholarship, they will treat you as a worker for them. So they will pay your kind of salary for living, and they will pay all the expenses for your study. So
is it
nothing to worry about?
Okay, that's good. But are you happy here in New Zealand? How do you find the country? How do you find the people?
They are very friendly and welcome.
So you feel at home here, you feel comfortable?
I feel very comfortable, and I can see people respect each other very much, no matter who you are, no matter what do you believe. Yeah, and that's really beautiful.
You mentioned students in New Zealand. What are the educational opportunities, for example, for Indonesians to study in New Zealand? I mean, of course, there are more Indonesian students studying in Australia, but are there opportunities for education and perhaps exchanges that can be done between the two countries?
Yeah, we think huge opportunities. So firstly, our basic schooling and university system, I think, is world class. If you look at the international studies of things like literacy and numeracy standards, the PISA studies, New Zealand ranks extremely highly. So the probability of an Indonesian student coming to New Zealand and getting a good education is very high. Secondly, I think they'll get a great experience. Hopefully they'll enjoy their time down here, and they'll get an opportunity to see a different way of life, but one that, as I say, is quite friendly and not sort of intimidating. The universities are very good, so we see lots of graduates coming for everything from law to kind of economics or engineering, but there are specialist agricultural universities as well, and so that can be an area where someone comes and says, look, I want to go and study at Lincoln or Massey University for agricultural or science-based areas.
But would you, is there going to be an increase, for example, in scholarships that
we hope so.
Providing?
Yeah, we hope so. And I mean, and working holidays too as part of the overall program. And I'm 100% sure what our working holiday program is with Indonesia, but that's an area where we're again expanding with countries around the world. So there are real opportunities for us to grow, and yeah, I think people would enjoy their time here.
And you would welcome more Indonesians to come and
we definitely want more.
Do business and study and.
Yeah, we definitely want more. And I mean, we look at Indonesia. It's a very powerful economy. It's growing and doing extremely well. I used to go there when I was an investment banker in the mid-90s a lot.
Yeah. So what was your impression then of Indonesia?
It's an amazing country. I mean, I lived in Singapore, so I go over to Jakarta quite a bit. So it's quite a remarkable country. But in the years I've been going back, I've seen significant change. I'm very much looking forward to going back now and seeing, I'm sure Jakarta's changed an awful lot since I've been for probably 5 or 6 years. So it'll be great to go back and have a look.
It's a lot more traffic jam these days, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's right. But the pace of that industrialisation's everywhere in Asia. And having lived in Singapore and getting a sense of that's country I go back to quite a bit, even how much that still changes just shows you, the pace in Asia is incredible.
John Key was sworn in as Prime Minister on 19th of November 2008, and since then has been one of the most popular leaders in New Zealand's history, and seen as a safe pair of hands as he led the country through earthquakes, coal mine disaster, and the global economic turmoil. In the process, he earned a second term as Prime Minister when the National Party won a historic victory in the general election in November 2011, capturing 48% of the vote. And you said originally you're from Ireland, is that right?
My wife's parents were, so...
But how about you yourself?
My father was English and my mother was Austrian, so I'm an unusual mix. I'm first generation New Zealander. My parents came out after the war.
But do you feel yourself sort of more English as opposed to New Zealand, or do you feel yourself like 100% New Zealand?
I think New Zealand, I'd say. I mean, it's... I lived in the UK for a while, and I mean, I enjoyed it. It was very nice, but I'm a bit parochial, and I think New Zealand's the best country in the world. So, yeah, for me, I'm 100% Kiwi.
Okay. Well, Prime Minister, thank you very much for having me. And,
My pleasure.
well, good luck with the trip to Indonesia, and I hope we can see something good coming out of your visit.
Thank you very much indeed. Nice to meet you. All the best.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Prime Minister Key's visit to Indonesia is to cement further the bilateral ties between the two countries, as well as show the increasing importance Indonesia has for New Zealand. It is to be hoped that a closer relationship would foster better understanding between the two people and create more interest in each other's country and what both have to offer. Well, Joanne, I guess it's time for us to say goodbye, and I'd like to thank you very much for looking after me here in New Zealand. I had a really good time here in Middle-earth, enjoying the spectacular natural scenery, took part in some exciting adventure, checked out some sheep farms and the Maori cultures and traditions. So once again, thank you very much. Looking forward to coming back.
Great, it's been an absolute pleasure, Desi. I hope to see you again.
Yeah, I hope to see you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Take care.
And that's all for this month's episode. Don't forget to join me on our next great episode on Face to Face with Desi Anwar, bringing you the world.